welcome to Grit and Grace Leadership Talks with me, Kate Taylor. I'm excited because I have my very first special guest on this series, who is someone that has been an amazing support to me in business over the last 5 years. Mardia, she's actually my business coach, as well as someone that has become a good friend of mine and a cheerleader in my business, along with many other women like me. So she is a business coach for many years now. She crews for Tony Robbins when he's in town as one of his team leaders. And she also is a lawyer by trade. So she has such a different edge to her coaching to what I've had with lots of other people. And so I really wanted to bring her on as someone that I believe has grit and grace in her leadership and business, and how she just does life. She's so amazing. So I wanted to bring her on board and introduce you to Mardia.
Hello.
Hi, Ray.
Hi. I'm so excited to be here. What an intro. Goodness.
Yes. Well,
yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, before we even say anything else, I want to congratulate you on your 10 years in business, right? So a lot of grit and grace on your end too.
That's true.
We've known each other for half that time, half of those 10 years, and I'm very proud to say that it's been the better half.
Yes. You came and helped me at very few times in my life and business. And yeah, I'm just so grateful for the support that I got in those dark valleys, and then how I've been able to come out on top with your support. So thank you. And I'm so grateful for you in my life. And so I really wanted to share you, I guess, with everyone who follows me online and social media and in my groups. And I wanted them obviously to just get to know you a little bit, understand a bit about your background, what you do and your business, and, just share some of your insights as a leadership coach that I think could help the audience that are watching. So just to start off with, I wanted to ask you to tell me about, how do you set up your day for success? What do you do? What rituals do you have? What, different habits do you do? Things like that to help you set up your day so you're in a good mindset.
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I feel like there are so many articles at this point about morning rituals and how to have the best morning and what time to get up. And so it's so I want to start with like an insider tip, right? That you may not have come across in the articles that you've read so far or the videos that you've seen, which is to actually get started in bed. So what I mean by that is, even before I'm awake, in terms of like what I'm grateful for, I think about that while I'm still in bed. I think about, hey, what went really well yesterday? What are some of the things that I really want to experience and achieve and get done today? So even before I'm out of the bed, I'm thinking and I'm getting myself in that mindset of gratitude, of reflection, and just sort of connecting with myself even before I'm up. So that's been something that's really helpful, which is like, instead of like waiting to get up and sort of doing everything perfectly, like to actually get your mind just connected with what you're experiencing before you even start your day. Because I think a lot of the times people may feel this sense of pressure, like I've got to get up, then I've got to write in my journal, that I've got to do this, then I've got to do that, right? Like, oh crap, now I missed my gratitude. I didn't get into doing this, and I didn't write my list down. And so, but what's really important is the discipline and that dialogue that you have with yourself, and you can get that started. And so even if
how long do you spend on that? Would you spend in the morning doing that when you first wake up?
I would say less than 5 minutes, because, your thoughts can be really quick, actually. You can actually say, oh my gosh, what are 3 things that went really well yesterday? Oh my God, had an incredible conversation with a client. Oh yeah, that was a great moment with my partner. Or that was, like you can sort of start to get in that space, and it doesn't actually take a lot of time, right? For you to be like, oh yeah, yesterday was, this is good. Okay, what do I want to do today? What do I want to feel like? So that it actually takes very little time, but you're thinking and you're feeling some of the things that are going to set you up for a really, really like aligned day forward. I found that that's something that's really
useful. Awesome. I love that.
Yeah. And also some days need different things than others. So even in bed, right? Like prioritize, like this is the most important thing today. This is what I really want to create today. So that, you're like, even before you've left the bed, like you're just connected. You know what's happened, you know what you want to feel today, and you know what today is going to look like.
Yeah, I love that. And then do you find, do you do any exercise in the mornings? Do you get straight up and read something? What do you tend to do as your morning ritual?
Yeah, so as cliche as it sounds, like making your bed is really important. Like, yeah, you've got to do that. And while I do it, I sometimes will have reading in the back. So either an audiobook or something. What a lot of the leaders talk about is using your net time well, right? While you're doing one thing, trying and just using that time to also feel you and do something else. Of course, that doesn't always work. Some days I feel like listening to great music, and that also is really important to get yourself in a certain space. So whenever you're sort of doing these sort of menial tasks, if you will, to still fill it with something that gives you joy and it's a good use of your time, that's really important. I'm a big yoga girl. I've been doing yoga for a long time, since I was like in my teens. Again, it's nothing fancy. You can do yoga like in your bedroom. It's obviously wonderful, like if you have a proper ritual, but I hope this is kind of telling you or communicating like what's important is that you connect with yourself and use that time well, rather than to do it perfectly.
That's true. Just do something every day for yourself to connect with yourself and use your time. I've been finding getting up really early this last few weeks, the start of the day to exercise. I've been trialing that as a new thing. And it's actually been such a nice way to start the day. It's hard getting up when the alarm goes off, but once I get up and go, if I've been doing a walk, I actually put on a podcast and listen to something. And then I'm taking notes as I'm learning in my phone. And then afterwards, I have a post to share with everyone on my social media around what I've learned that day. And so I found that gives me accountability. It helps me like really listen and not get distracted with other thoughts. Like you said, using that time well so you can kind of challenge your thinking or teach yourself something new or have a different perspective on something. I find it's a good way to start.
Yeah. So just it can be 3 to 5 things that you do every day. It's not the same for everybody, but whoever's listening, I urge you to find out the 5 things that sort of get you in the best space and makes you feel the most connected. Like, for some people I know, like they love cold showers and that sort of really jumpstarts their thinking. That is not me. That is not me, but there are people who really enjoy that. And so whatever it is, 3 to 5 things, that make you feel really good.
I love that. And can you tell us about your career path? Because you've had a bit of a different path to get to where you are and what you're doing now. Can you tell us a little bit about your career journey and how you got into what you're doing now?
Yeah, as you mentioned in the intro, like I'm a lawyer, and my background, my other major, I did an arts law degree, and my arts major is English and communications, right? So I was always drawn to professional environments where I wasn't just doing the legal work, but I was shaping and advising on how an organization speaks, how the people speak, what they believe in, what the values are. So even very early on, when I started my first sort of grad role at the Attorney General's Department, I was still working on how the agency looks at resolving disputes, like how people were going to talk to each other while they were resolving disputes. So even like when I then went over to legal aid, I was still looking at how the organization was going to like what the values were going to be, was going through a huge change and shakeup at the time. So I often put myself in positions where an organization is going through a big change or people are going through big change. And so as well as doing the legal stuff, there's a lot of change management and crisis management and people management. And that sort of brings just the excitement, right? And it makes the process really dynamic. So you're not just putting out fires, you're actually, there with them. Right? Yes, they're building something, whether it's rebuilding something new or whether they're, just starting something over. So So I did that, and then of course I was in-house counsel at like ANU for a long time, and even back then the university was going through a huge time of change. So I was very privileged, like, you know, just to work with a lot of tiered clients, so not just students, but, you know, committees and just the larger parts of the university, and then other like external stakeholders. So that's been a part of my work since I started this, you know, over 10 years ago. And what I really wanted to do was just sort of take some of those skills and then venture out right into other organizations and other leaders, and look at other contexts where I could offer that, and also connect with people creating really amazing things like you.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Isn't that funny how when we look back at our careers, we can see like little things or skills we developed in certain jobs or roles we did that you thought, oh, why am I doing this? Like, what am I here for? And then like now when you look back, you're like, oh, I needed that job to teach me those skills, to realize that I enjoyed that communication and problem solving, and I enjoyed collaborating with other people, and not just doing their legal work, you know, like actually it gave you that ability to see that you enjoy it, like, you know, being part of the whole journey with someone rather than just, you know, in that crisis point. So where they need a lawyer.
Yeah. And, you know, it's so interesting you say that, because you know how sometimes, like, say in the personal growth space now, there's a lot of focus on finding your passion or finding the thing that you're good at.
Yes.
But what you said is so correct, which is you've already left pebbles in your past about the things that you are passionate about and the things that bring you joy that other people get value from. So it's like, if you also connect with that, your past can also tell you a lot about what you look.
Yeah, exactly. No, I often say to candidates, look, not every job is going to be your dream job. Sometimes it's a stepping stone to get you to your dream job. Absolutely. And so, you know, like, you know, some things are for a season. So, you know, and actually being, you know, being your best self in that season. So like not seeing it as, oh, I'm just here for a stopgap, but actually go, what is it that what's my purpose here? What can I learn? Where can I grow? Where can I help people in that role, so that I can, you know, get everything out of that opportunity to help me get to that dream that I'm trying to aim for.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so important as well, you know, and just like, how would you sort of look at life differently if, for example, you didn't see as every stepping stone as a no or a distraction? It's almost like if you spell the word like yes, it's like this job is the Y, that's the E, and that's the S, right? So you're just going from one to the next, rather than thinking, oh my God, this is not where I'm meant to be. This is not where I'm meant to be. Like, just to have a different perspective of what each step is leading you to can make so much difference.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. And you kind of don't get resentful or like, you know, negative about your situation. You can kind of see it for what it is for the time that you're there. And that outlook can make a big difference.
Such a huge difference.
Yeah. And how long have you run your coaching business for now? It's been a while.
So for a while, it's been almost just over 5 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. So a lot of growth even in that space. And it's been so exciting just to work with people from different industries and just, connect with leaders from a whole host of spaces.
Yeah. So tell me what you found you kind of specialize in with coaching and leadership. So people, if they're interested, they may want to connect with you.
Yeah. And this is a great question, right? Because not everyone needs what you have or wants what you have. And again, it's like the same goes for your like recruitment or like any kind of industry that you're in. Your values is a great filter for the types of people who are going to be working with you and connecting with you. So like this also took me a while to find out. But one of the reasons I started, and I would say that this has become the specialty because this is where I go with my clients, is that we don't do a lot of surface work and strategy just by itself. Right. I tend to go deep with my clients because it's very important to me that we get to the root of what is actually causing the problem. A lot of the times coaches will headlong just start giving advice without actually knowing what is creating the problem, right? And it's really easy to spout a list of 10 to-dos, but if you actually don't identify the problem, it's not a copy-paste mechanism, right?
That's true.
So that's a great part of advisory, and it's an important part of like being a consultant as well, right? Which is actually getting to know the client deeply enough that you can pinpoint what is causing that challenge and what is the actual pain point, right? And sometimes they don't know either. They may think it's an issue, but then when you go deeper, you realize the issue is actually somewhere else.
Yes.
So that's one aspect that I really enjoy working with people on. The second thing I would say is that my work is quite integrated. It's not just say, very intellectual. It's also emotional. It's not just like very masculine. It's also feminine. In that the strategy is also balanced and integrated with the support and a lot of connection with the client. We also don't go on the other end where we just talk about our feelings. It's like, no, we want to, we actually do want to focus on the dreams. And it's like, well, what is the boundary that we need? What is the standard that we need? What needs to go? What needs to stay? So we're still very driven by that. We do it in a way that's very loving and integrated, so that people can feel good about the choices that they're making rather than feeling like they're forcing themselves, right, to do stuff.
Well, yeah, I think it's like the more, and it's sometimes we just need someone that's got our back. I know with you, when we first started working together, you taught me all around like just basic stuff like boundaries, and like how I didn't have boundaries where I would like let people treat me in a certain way, and I didn't realize that I needed to have more clearer boundaries with people. And like, I remember you described it like, if you go around a roundabout in your car, you like, you can't just do what you want, but you have to wait to people, and you know what I mean? Like it has to be done in a certain way so that no one has an accident. And often if we do not set those boundaries, we are allowing those collisions to happen in our lives, and we wonder why we're unbalanced or things are not working well. Like limiting beliefs, mindset, like manifestation, law of attraction, all that stuff, like I had no real understanding of. And so, it was really powerful when I started to learn all this stuff. I found a journal the other day from when we first started working together, and I had all these notes from like when you taught me different things, like boundaries or whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah.
Remember boundaries? Oh gosh. And sort of years into it, you kind of take it for granted because it becomes second skin, right? Like, of course, you have boundaries and standards, but you'd be surprised, like even like high performers, sometimes like some of the language they have around boundaries and the reasons they have that. It's really useful, right? To look at just what's going on behind the scenes, right? And that sort of brings me to my third thing. So apart from like going deep and having an integrated approach, I focus a lot on authenticity, because it's like you are best when you are you, right? But it's precisely that easy and that difficult to be yourself, right? So that's a whole other work. It's a whole process. But I feel like leadership is such a great invitation for self-discovery in all these different pillars of your life, right? Because all of a sudden, if you're running a business, if you're impacting people, you've got to look at the health pillar, the friend pillar, the staff pillar, the family pillar. It's such an invitation to know yourself and to be yourself in many, many different ways. And that's really exciting for me. Yeah,
that's amazing. And you work with people also, like small business owners right through to like executives, in corporates and things like that, don't you?
Yes, I do. I'm so lucky to work with people at different industries at this point. It's like, again, from our all-stars in recruitment, like say like senior managers in some of the big 4 firms, to educators and people working in construction, and also like some people across Europe. And I'm really privileged now to work with people internationally. So in the startup space, and people who are doing really exciting things either in Silicon Valley or across Europe, So it's like you have leaders at sort of many, many different spaces in the community, and it's really great, right, to be in different spaces and see what that particular team or organization needs.
Yeah, wow. It must give you lots of different insight into so many different businesses and leaders.
Yeah. And so many types of cultures as well, right? Like, yeah, like how a startup works or how a recruitment agency works or how the Big Four work, and sort of what are the dynamics, what are the sort of variables that affect how people are changing and growing in each of those spaces. So yeah, I find that really interesting.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what advice would you give to anyone that's wanting to get into coaching, like you're doing, leadership coaching? What advice would you give?
I would really find out. I know people say this, you know, Simon Sinek, one of the wonderful person in the space, a great writer and speaker, he says, start with why, but start with like 3 whys, as in, why do you want to do this?
Yeah.
Why does the industry need, or like, why do you want to do this better, differently?
Yes.
Like, get a real clear understanding of what it is that you offer and be very passionate about it.
Yes.
Because if you want to sound like, because you know, there's a lot of sameness in this industry, a lot of people who sound kind of similar because they're using the same kind of thinking or they're using the same kind of language. Again, absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I feel like your clients receive a lot more when you can really identify what it is that you do for them that is different, right, to what others can offer in the space.
Clarity. Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing is, you can only take people as deep or as far as you've gone. It doesn't need to be the same life situation, but you also need to do your own work, right? So that if someone is struggling, if someone is going through a hard time, you can actually be very present because you've been present with yourself when you've gone through a hard time, right?
Wow.
So, yeah. So it doesn't need to be the same life scenario. I'm not saying you need to go through the same loss, but you, as a coach, you have to invest and you have to do your own inner work so that you really can be with someone without judgment, and you can support someone when they're going through a difficult time.
Well, yeah, like I know over the last few years, we've both gone through grief and loss at the same time with different losses, and how like, even in the midst of it all, you were still able to kind of still show up and help those around you because you've done all this work on yourself and you've done that, you know, you gave yourself time to obviously grieve, but also to show up and support your clients too, which I found so admirable because it's always hard.
And right back at you. I mean, I was floored. I know you've been very public and vocal about this, but again, you know, these moments kind of reveal, right, who we are. And sometimes we shock ourselves. It's like, oh, wow, I'm still here. I still want to show up for people. I didn't know that about myself. I thought maybe I'd stay home today, you know, like, or I didn't think that I would have energy to talk to anyone today, but I do, right? Like, and you've been incredible. Like, I've been floored by just how much love you have to give and how much you love what you do. Because again, amidst those moments of pain and sort of coming to the grace of those moments, you know, true to the name of this leadership talk series, you showed an immense amount of grit, Kate. And again, you weren't forcing it, but like, how wonderful that you kind of knew that that's who you were, and you showed up that way when you were going through that painful time.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's been really interesting because, you know, we all have a choice in the midst of the trial, like how we show up, and that, you know, it's hard it'd be easy just to stay in bed, like you said, and not, you know, and just not face the world. But actually, I found work as a good outlet to give me purpose and focus, and just give me something to do outside of my grief, so I could like just pick myself up and do something I know I'm good at, and I could just go in there and it was a good distraction in some ways, but I always made sure that at nighttime, once my daughter was in bed, that I made time to process and to have self-care and to, you know, sit in the bath and, you know, do whatever I need to just to look after me and give myself time to cry if I needed to, etc. Because I learned actually from a good psychologist. My psychologist explained like putting things in how he does his job to keep going. He said was he'd every time he sees a client, he imagines their case is like what they've told him is put into a shoebox. And then he stacks it up on the shelf. He visualizes them putting it on the shelf. So that at the end of each day, he doesn't go home worrying about all the people he's heard about that day. But he's gone, I've done what I can for this person. I've helped them. I've given them the time and space that they needed. And then I can now go on to the next person. And then he can look after himself, and so I imagine as a coach, you'd have to do the same to try and compartmentalize a little bit so that you can still look after you too.
Yeah. And look, like, I'll be the first one to admit that it's really hard at first, right? Because again, what's interesting is the part of us that's emotional and the part of us that's rational don't always move at the same speed.
Yeah.
So you might rationally know, hey, it's time I can schedule this, and my time for feeling sad is over today. Like, and it's time to move on to the next thing. But it takes a while, right? For the part of you that's feeling all those emotions to also get on board. And that's also a process. But what you've said is like, you loving what you do helps you finding solace in the work that you do. It is such a gift, right? To be able to find that in your work. I really think that's a blessing. I have that. I find a lot of solace in my work when I'm going through hard times. And it's also a good reminder, right? For people to create that, find that, look for it in the way that they're making that impact in their work too.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's also being that grace of giving yourself grace. And like, as leaders, we're trained to have grit. Like, we're kind of built for it, that resilience, that courage, that bravery. But actually trying to combine the grace aspect too. I think having that vulnerability, you helped me. Like, I was trying to put on a brave front to my team, and I didn't want them to know what was going on. And actually you were like, what are you worried about them knowing the truth? Like, why are you so worried about them knowing that you're actually human and you have emotions and you actually are going through a hard time, and it's actually okay to be vulnerable and share that and still be the courageous leader that they look up to. And I that took a lot, because I was so like trying to be brave and hold it together. But actually in that moment, what I needed was to have that grace for myself and that kindness to say, actually, this was hard right now. And guys, I'm doing my best, but I need you to understand what I'm dealing with. And actually my team got around me and were very supportive and very kind to me. And I think that helped us grow together as a team as well.
Absolutely. You've said that so beautifully. I just, again, want to feed back to you. You're amazing. It takes a lot of, just a spiritual perspective, right? To do that. It's not always like, when we talk about grace, I know it's used in different terms, but we sort of come full circle that vulnerability is strong, right? It takes strength to let yourself be seen in that way. Because especially, it's like, if you are a leader, you're quite proud, right, of having that front and that face where you're the giver and the helper, and you don't need as much as you give.
No, that's true. And I think
you kind of wear that as a badge of honor. It's like, hey, I'm the giver, I'm the caretaker, I look after people, I don't actually need that much from others.
Yeah, that's true.
And we come full circle to that. It actually takes strength, right? Because then you're also overcoming a barrier, which is, I love seeing people when they're vulnerable, and I'm going to allow myself that gift as well, so that we have a stronger bond and the team and I have a deeper connection as we build this and do this together.
Exactly. That strength in vulnerability, strength in courage, showing up when you don't feel like it, strength in, I just think I learned a whole new level of what strength really means through going through those trials. And I think, that was something we worked through, because I thought I had this image of what strong had to be. And actually it didn't include the vulnerability. It felt like I had to put on this almost a mask that I was okay. actually, because that's the way I've been raised, my dad was a minister, so we always had to show up to church and be our best behavior and, always put on that front. No matter what was going down in our world, we had to put on a front and show up. And it's given me a lot of good grit in terms of, life lessons and times in life where I haven't wanted to show up. I've had to pull that together and use that. But the downside is that we weren't ever taught to be vulnerable in the power of that, and that is a strength as well. So,
absolutely. Yeah, you've said that so well. And I feel like how you phrased it is something I want to just mirror. It's like, see how a lot of the time, sometimes we can feel a bit resentful, right? It's like, oh man, I grew up like this. And this was like now kind of wear a mask every now and then. But part of the work is to also see the gifts in that, which is, that's what brought the grit. And that's what actually taught you, right, to have a level of resilience and strength that is valuable. And I think it gives people a lot of peace, right, to look at some of the things that you might think are problematic or even like growth areas, and come to terms with the ways that they gave you strength, and then the ways that they led you to serve people better, meet other people's needs. Like, they may be some of the greatest things on your resume. I don't know. Like, it might actually be like, and to be grateful for that is really important. Like on my end, say in the legal profession, like there are not only like very, very hard deadlines, but there's actually no room for emotion. It's like, good luck, like trying to convince a judge, right, that about your feelings, about what you're like, it's just
true.
Yeah, like, if you're a hard day, you don't get a postponement really of a thing that you have to present. If your matter is up, your matter is up. You go. And unless it's like, I remember there was an incident where I had like burnt my hand on the day, right? And I called up the court and I said, Your Honor, like, can we postpone the matter? Like, I'm in a physical, like, so much physical pain. And they would straight up, like, unless you've gone to the doctors and they've given you a medical certificate. And I was just like, my hand is burning. I can't leave right now. It's like, okay, well, you have to be here. Right? You have to be here. The best we can do is you can. You've got to be here. We're not postponing the matter for you.
Wow.
Right? So just like, so being used to that and growing up in that, I can be like, oh my God, that was so painful and that was so frustrating. Yes, that's only part of the story. The other part of it is that it made me really, really good, right? At meeting different needs and having a very, very high threshold for what I could do.
That's true. It makes you, it definitely gives you that grit, that's for sure. You poor thing. Your hand must have hurt so bad. Even when I just burn it on the oven slightly, I'm like, oh, it's painful for like days.
It's just like, no, you need to, because it was like I still have a bit of a scar here, but it was hilarious, which is it was a 2nd-degree burn, but not urgent enough that I had to go to emergency. But still, it's just like, no, gotta go. Like, this is what's happening today.
Gotta go to court. Oh my God. That's amazing. And so obviously, I talk a lot around the fact that, I have what I call the Wellbeing Toolkit, where I have people like you in my corner that can draw upon when I'm going through a tough time. My psychologist and like friends and family, and also different, health people, things like that. So tell us what your top tips are to help your mental health and well-being to stay strong, to do what you do every day.
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. And I just want to reiterate to people, it takes a village. It really does. We were not meant to do this by ourselves. And we're not islands. And again, it can be tempting to feel like you're self-sufficient, but it's also, again, wonderful. You figure out new blind spots, new parts of yourself that you didn't know, right? Once you open to that village and that other perspective. So I also believe a lot in mentorship. It's been something that's been a part of my life for a long time, for over 10 years now. And again, I just love this space of dialogue, right? Because you just don't know what insights you would have or where you would go without that interaction with another human being, right?
That's true.
And that's really important to me. I also love a lot of self-dialogue. So journaling is something that's been a big part of my life for a long time. I think especially yeah. Yes, I know. Right? Like it's
a beautiful journal that I've been adding to over the years. It's still going. Are
you serious? It's still not. You're still making your way through that.
In that journal.
I think I've finished. It's because I remember when I gave you that journal, but I think I've written 4 or 5 by now. Because I love that you're still making your way through that.
It's always full. It's a few pages left, but I think because I only tend to write it when there's like big things happening,
something going
like
on,
when I really need to nut it out and process it.
Yeah. And I also, it's like, again, there are people who write it daily. I don't, but say if something good happened or something bad happened, it'll just be a reminder. Oh, this is how it felt. This is what I learned, like just, even if it's like a little learning, which is, I was late to this thing today and that felt really awful. Like, you don't enjoy being late. Like, don't do that again. Like you're normally very punctual. Don't do that again. Like just little, even if it's a little learning, right? It's just ways to kind of read through it and go, oh yeah, there's that memory, there's that learning, there's that part of my life, like, which felt so hard at the time. And now it's fine. It's wonderful to also see yourself evolve and have a written, like a witness, right, of you as you're kind of growing.
True.
Yeah,
that's so true.
Yeah. And I also love to read, and I think it's important for people to have some kind of creative outlet. Like you don't need to be a painter or artist or anything, but you can be creative in the way that you live. Like if your friendships are creative, if you love music, if you have like the candles and some beauty in your house, right? It's very important to make the everyday ordinary experiences in your life as beautiful as possible, so that you're surrounded in like good health and beauty, like all around you.
Yes. Right? I love that.
I think a lot of people, I don't know, it's like maybe they don't prioritize enjoying their life as much, but that's very important to great mental health.
I agree.
And not kind of waiting for the big holiday to have fun, right? But then to integrate joy. Joy is very, very important in your everyday experiences.
Yeah, I definitely think, and like celebrating the wins. Like I feel like a lot of people say I do that really, really well because I love celebrating any opportunity. Birthdays, Christmas, anniversaries, business events, different wins. And I think that's what keeps me going. Like if I just waited for the annual holiday, I don't think I would be able to keep doing what I do.
Right. And you are such a great example of this. I think you're an inspiration to your community for this, because leaders sometimes have a habit of just focusing on, what still needs to be better or what still needs to be perfect.
Yeah.
And again, it can be pretty, not demoralizing, but you can see, right, how the focus, you can just kind of contract as a human being if you're always just thinking about ways that it can improve. But you have such a beautiful, expansive energy. It's like, that's why you have a lot of fuel, because it's like, here are the things that are going really well. And I'm ready for more. And what's next?
Yeah, I think I'm a natural, I'm natural optimist, which I think is good because it's given me that like ability to see things, like I see the positive before the negative. And I think a lot of people naturally will look for the problem before they find the solution. Whereas I see the possibility and the vision and the goal, and then, but on the flip side, I get a bit challenged if something goes wrong, and I'm like, I didn't anticipate that. Like, there was no room for that. Like, because I think it's all going to go perfect, and I think having that people around you to kind of bring that reality in as well to help give you that. Hey, have you thought of it from this angle? Or you know what I mean? Like, I think we all need people that can kind of challenge us in our thinking, because whether we're an optimist or not, I think either way is not great at all times. There's times where you need someone to like slow down. Let's review this whole idea. Will this work? Will this not work? And how to make it, a success.
And also it's like, I think, you've said it so beautifully, which is like realizing that you don't have to go through this process alone. Like if we kind of look out at nature, like everything gives, everything takes and gives. Like there's like, if you have a tree, like people take the fruit and people take the shade, and it's almost like no humans just standing without any other help, just getting by life, right? Like we rely on things around us immensely just to function as a person. So it's just sort of taking the fact, like, I want to contribute and I want to receive. I want to give and I want to receive. And to have that be normalized and for it to be okay, rather than feeling like it makes you a better leader or a stronger person if you're isolated.
True.
Because it doesn't.
You can't do it alone, that's for sure.
Right? Yeah. Right. And just to open to the, like, you may have had negative experiences in the past, but like you say, that optimism and looking, right, for people who can align with and who can meet what you want in those relationships and those dynamics are really important.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, I think it's so true. And I think, there's a lot of juggle being a businesswoman and an entrepreneur and leader. You're always thinking of new ideas, new ways to help your clients or, add value and, even surviving through. I mean, your work is often online, which has been great because we were doing coaching for years before COVID online, which was, I guess, a blessing for you because you're already set up and used to that. And I always wondered, will it work? Will it have the same feeling having a Zoom call with my coach versus a face-to-face? Like in my head, I always thought face-to-face would be ideal. And I think a lot of people think that. But actually what I've realized is the best person to help you for your challenge or your problem that you're facing as a leader or as a person may not be around the corner to you, and to get the best person to work with you, maybe someone in a different state, different country, wherever that is. And so if you can find a way to connect with them, on camera like this, it really helps, I think, people realize that to get the best help doesn't need to be in their own backyard. Like you could be anywhere in the world and tap into the best resources with coaches like yourself.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. And also, like, what I'll encourage people to do is focus on the connection, right? Like get clear on what you need and also like the company you want to keep, right? That's so important. It's like, what's the energy you want in your life? Like, how do you want to feel after you end a mentoring call? Because you can be face to face with someone, and if you're not aligned with them on your values, you can still feel like crap after you end the conversation, right? So it's almost like rather than, like you were saying, like just to focus on that variable, to open, right, and to the possibility of the relationship and of the connection. And that driving, right, the kind of people you want in your business and in your life.
It's true. Yeah, it's amazing. And thank you so much for all these insights and chats. It's so good to talk with you. Just to finish off, what would you say is your favorite quote that showcases grit and grace in life or leadership? Do you have a quote for us?
I feel like people have said this in different versions time and time again. But it's like, I'm going to quote the sort of original person. Like, it's just what Shakespeare said. It's like, above all, be true to yourself.
I love that.
Right? It's like, just the highest priority is for you to be yourself. And it's just as it's sort of like, well, what does that mean? It's like, exactly. There'll be grit involved. There'll be grace involved, but say yes to that journey and yes to that invitation. And, and it's like, so whether it's Shakespeare or whether it's like Carl Jung or Joseph Campbell, who said like, oh yeah, the privilege of a lifetime is to be who you truly are. Right. So whatever form that takes, but I feel like if you commit to that journey of being true to yourself, you'll have to, know the limits of your grit. You'll know like the places in yourself where grace is bountiful. Like you'll just know all these different facets of yourself if you're really committed to that process of authenticity.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, thank you so much. I really loved our chat today. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My first interview person that come on board to my new series. And I would love to share with everyone if they would like to connect with you, find out more about what Ray does and the work she does and how you could potentially work with her in the future. Please check out raymardia.com.au. Is that right? Or just .com?
It's just raymardia.com. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. You can also find me on Kate's social groups, basically anywhere where Kate is, you know.
Yeah. Just look her up.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Kate has a fantastic community on Facebook that's, you know, thousands of people growing strong. So every now and then I'm also there and just spending a bit of time with her community. And so if you'd like to find me or connect with me, I'm also on Facebook. So would love to hear from any of you and have a conversation. That would be amazing.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ray. We loved having you on today.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. Till next time. Bye.
Telling me to dance, taking a chance.